What's up, Night Tube? It's Diamond Cut Steel, and you guys might learn something today. Can't say you will, but you might. So, what I want to talk about today, it's something that I'm sure gets talked about frequently. I personally haven't seen much videos pop up on it. Now, with that said, I don't watch much Knife Tube. Most channels are just, it's like QVC and Home Shopping Network, so I just avoid it. There's a couple channels I do watch. It's not just constantly trying to sell you every new $60 China knife that comes out. But they're few and far in between. Ray, Rockin' Knives, to name a couple. But there's not too many I watch. And the ones that I do watch are all smaller channels. But enough about that. What I want to talk about is what you see here. You have a modern folder, a traditional, a very traditional, and a traditional. Excuse me. The reason I want to talk about this is not going to be a long video, neither, guys. You hear you have two types of people in the EDC community. You have the die-hard traditional guys, and you have the die-hard modern folder guys. I don't think, and I could be wrong about this. Remember, I don't watch too much Knife Tube. I don't think they cross paths all that much. And what I mean by that is the diehard, or the guys that are really into traditionals are into traditionals, and that's what they carry. The guys that are into modern folders, that's what they carry. I don't know. I know it looks funny because of how my hands are positioned, so like this and like this, but I'm sitting cockeyed to the camera, not directly behind it because it's annoying. So the tripod's in my way, so I'm off. You understand. But I don't think that I don't think that one group carries too much of the other. Now, with that said, personally, myself, I carry a traditional and a modern knife every single day. I carry one of each every single day. And the reason, there's a couple. First off, I have my, in this case, it's just a budget knife, but I have my, modern high performance folder. That is going to do, what I ask of it. It's going to take care of me well. It's going to have a nice high performance piece of steel on it. It's quick, one hand open, one hand close. Sets in the pocket nicely. It's comfortable in hand, ergonomic. Okay. So this is going to see most of my work. This is going to get me through the day with comfort and performance. Okay. My modern knife is gonna the bulk of my cutting is going to be done efficiently and more comfortably with my modern knife. Now, I carry a traditional. And the reason I carry a traditional, nostalgia, roots. My grandparents carried these type of knives. My father carried these type of knives. When I was a a young little dude carry these type of knives. And so the nostalgia really plays a big part in it, but I also really enjoy using these. And the reason is I don't have to have a locking knife in most cases. These have they always, your traditionals are almost always going to have nice thin geometry. They have nice thin blades. They cut really well. I love the Sodbuster platform. It's what's in my left pocket most times. Would be a junior or a Sodbuster senior. But these knives are comfortable in hand. They have excellent geometry. They're ready to do what you ask. Sure, they're basic steels. You're not going to have all that great of edge retention, but it's definitely serviceable. It's going to get you through a day. Get home, strop, you're good to go. But I enjoy using them. I enjoy using them for nostalgia's sake. When I'm out, cutting up a bunch of plastic, it's something I used to have to do as a kid. Go out there and cut up a whole shit ton of plastic, throw it in the recycle, for recycling. These knives right here are brilliant for that. Plus, while I'm using it, I think back to, when I was a relatively young boy and out there doing that exact same job for my parents. And it's just, it always gets a smile. And again, the knives perform great because they always have that nice thin geometry. They're going to cut really good. Prime example, let's say I'm out cutting down that, doing that plastic shit. It's tough, man. And I've got this folder right here is my right main right pocket knife. Look how thick that blade is. Look how quickly it gets thick. This right here is going to cut through that sheeting a lot easier than this. So in that case, I have something that's, a traditional that's outperforming the modern knife in that, for that need. These knives always have great geometry. This knife, this thing right here is a cardboard cutting beast. You have that basically 0 gram with a teeny micro bevel on it. This isn't, laminated steel with a carbon blue steel core, blue paper steel. It's quite hard. The edge retention is actually quite nice. Now it does thicken up a little bit. It's not got the greatest of geometry, but it is very thin at the edge and it really cuts through a lot of materials quite nicely. And it's just fun to use, like, is it super comfortable? No, but it's also, if I'm out there cutting down single wall cardboard, this thing just blows through it. It's ready to go. Another thing, when I'm out, in the warehouse and talking with the boys out there, knives like this bring up conversation always. These do too. The modern knives, they do too. A lot of those guys are quite into knives, not like me, but they really like knives. So it's always a discussion piece, and in most cases, the modern knives don't really bring up too much conversation. It may a little bit if they recognize it, or hey, what is that? I like that. That's pretty sweet. But that's about it. However, the traditional knives always always, and I mean always, get conversation started. Always. And it's usually, man, when I was 5 years old, that was a knife that was always in my grandpa's hand, or a buck 110, whatever. But man, is that a sawbuster? Yeah, man, that was my dad. All my childhood, that was a knife that was in my dad's pocket. He used it every day. And I have that thing now, or whatever. And then this is a knife that not many, of course, us knife people know about it. Us knife guys, we know Higos, of course. Cool story behind them, but non-knife people or people that aren't really into knives, they have no freaking clue what this is in most cases. They see it, they think it's cool as shit, especially women. Like in the office, the girls like, what is that? That's freaking cool, man. Like, is that Japanese? Blah 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 blah. And yeah, it's called a Higo. And then you start chatting with them about the story. They find it cool. And then guess what? There, next time, see them in the office a couple days later, and guess what they got? Hey, come check this out. Come check this out. Look what I got. I got me one. And it's kind of cool. Like, and then you see them opening letters or just doing basic little tasks with their Higo, and I think that's cool as hell. For some reason, the girls really find these knives cool. Some of them. Oh, my dad carried one of them. You get that, but these are the knives that the girls really like. For some reason, they like these things. They think it's cool as hell. When you tell them the story and tell them how it's two pieces of steel that's around a much harder center, the part where you're cutting is your cutting core, and it's a much harder steel than this jacket steel. That's what that line is. Blah blah blah. Tell them the story behind the Higo and how it come into existence, and they just find it interesting and cool. And then, like I said, bingo, next you see them a couple days later, they got them a Higo. And to me, that is really cool. And that is why I carry a traditional and a modern knife every single day. I never carry one without the other. I always have both on me. Even if I've got, just say I'm carrying a little guy, a little like fifth pocket modern knife. Let's just say carrying a K390 Dragonfly 2 or a Spyderco Cat, or AKA the Kitty Poos, or some just small, a little native, just a fifth pocket small modern knife. I guarantee you, I have a traditional in my left pocket, and even though I'm got a small lightweight main that day, I guarantee you I have a Sawbuster Junior, Senior, or a 100 millimeter or 120 millimeter Higo Nakami. One of the two. And occasionally it'll be a trapper, like a single bladed Warncliffe trapper, or a normal trapper, but with one, the clip point and the Warncliffe. Can be that. It can be a slim trapper, and now a copper lock. But the fact is, I always have a traditional on me. It's been that way for a long time. And I'll be completely honest, in a lot of cases throughout the day, the traditional is the one that does the most cutting. That's just the way it is. The traditional does the most cutting. You know, it's funny. You hear that? That's eBay. There's a guy on there that was selling I told y'all it wasn't gonna be a long video, but let me tell you the story real quick. I'm sure that's him replying. There's a guy on there that selling a cold steel range boss, and he's asking $80 for it. And I'm like, I mean, if you want a reasonable amount for it, I'll buy it. They're like 26, 30 bucks now. I got quite a few of them back when Midway had them at I think 940 or 1040. Anyways, in the 4116 steel. Anyway, so he's got it listed at $80 plus $10 shipping, and I'm like, well, I wanted to grab another one anyways because I'd give it away for a gift, and if you want to give me a realistic price, we can talk. I was like, these things are right now $27 on Amazon, and cheaper than that if you look around. $22 to $27 are in that range. I can pick them up at that. Hell, even at Knife Center, I think they're $39, and Blade HQ $39. So I was like, but you can go look. I was like, this is way too much. If you want to make a reasonable price, I'll buy it. So he comes back and he goes, oh no, this one's special. This one's in 4116, and they don't make them anymore. And I think that's a German steel. It's a really good steel. I was like, okay. The 4116 version is the version that everybody has. Any store you go buy it from is going to be the 4116 version, unless you go and buy it from Cold Steel directly, and then you'll get the 4034 version. But if you go anywhere and buy it, it's going to be the 4116 version. You go on eBay, Amazon, wherever, it's going to be the 4116 version. I was like, so, yes, it is a German steel. It's a very, very budget German steel. It's just very basic. It does perform a little bit better than the 4034, but it's not worth any more than the 4034 version. I was like, I appreciate, I wasn't trying to lowball you. I was like, I'm sorry if you think it's worth that. Okay. He's like, well, I'll give you $10 off. I was like, no, thank you. I'm good. And he's like, well, why not? This is the rare version. I was like, dude, there's nothing rare about that knife. I just bought a whole bunch of them from Midway like a month and a half, 2 months ago for, I think, less than $10 a piece. There's nothing rare about that knife. In fact, the 4034 version is much rarer than the 4116 version. The 4116 version is better. Not much, but it is better. But if you go buy it from any vendor, anywhere, you're going to get the 4116 version, not the 4034 version. So, if you want to consider it rare, the 4034 version, much rarer than the 4116 version. But I'm not going to. Anyways, it tickles me when people, they have no clue. They know, and he goes, people, and the funny thing is, when he answered my first message, he goes, people ask me all the time, talking about, your price is unrealistic. What would you take for it? He's like, and I had to tell him it's the rare version, blah, blah, blah. Well, don't you think if people are asking you all the time and you don't know knives, and people are telling you all the time, and you go look and you see, hey, these knives you can pick them up all day long from between $20 and $30. And you're trying to get $80 plus $10 shipping. Come on. You go look on Amazon, on eBay, and there's 100 listings of 4116 range bosses from around $30 to $40 on Amazon. On eBay. And a couple at $35. And I get it. People, they're charging a little more. Sorry guys, my camera died, but basically, if you're looking and your prices are double or more of what other people on the site that you're selling on is charging, for the same product. I mean, how can people be that clueless? Like and it's annoying. People have something and they think it's worth, like they put the worth on the item, and what they put as the worth to them, what they consider the worth of the item is they don't know, so they just put what they feel, and oh, it's in a German steel, so it's special. So I'm going to charge twice as much as everybody else is selling the exact same fucking knife. Like, I just don't get it. I don't care. I have quite a few of them. I was going to buy that one to give as a gift to one of the neighbors, but I have plenty, so I'll just give them one of mine. But fact of the matter is, like, why do people do that? It baffles me. They come up with these, arbitrary numbers, and it's like, where did this come from? You literally you are charging double what the second most expensive one on there. You're double that. When you factor in the shipping, it's double. Like, are you crazy? I don't know. Anyways, I'm sure that message was a smart ass because he probably didn't want to hear what I told him. Good luck. I hope you sell it, bro, but it's not worth even close to what you're asking for. So have a good one. I'm good. I don't want it. But it was nice the first time, but his reply was kind of pricky, and so my second reply wasn't pricky. I just told him the way it was. No, I'm good. I don't want it. $70 plus $10 shipping, still way too much. I'm good. Good luck selling it, and happy Thanksgiving. So I was like, I'm sorry. You're probably gonna have a hard time selling it at that, but good luck. I'm sure that pissed him off. So it is what it is. But anyhow, that's my that's my thoughts on traditionals, and let me know if I'm wrong. Is there a lot of people out there that carry a modern and a traditional as their EDC? Like, literally every day they've got one of each on them, or do the groups not really cross? If you're a modern guy, you're pretty much a modern guy, and if you're a traditional guy, you're a traditional guy, and you don't see much, you don't see often of people carrying both. Like, I don't know. You guys tell me. Do you personally? Do you carry one of each? No. Are you one or the other? Let me know. I'm genuinely curious because I think they both have a fantastic use case as a EDC for everybody. They both have their they both have their own attributes. Like, they really do, and they benefit each other. So, and another thing, if I'm in a store and I need to, pull out my knife and cut a thread off or something, this ain't gonna get you looked at. You pull out an old school looking knife and close it up, and then nobody bats an eye. You pull out your modern folder, flick it open, and then people can look at you. So you're over there pulling it out and easing it open so nobody hears, do whatever. It's just bullshit. Versus this, they're not going to look twice at you. So, I don't know. You guys tell me. But thank you for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed it. And I'm really curious to hear what y'all have to say about this one. All right, guys. Y'all have a good one. Happy Thanksgiving.